You're like living on a fucked up timeline.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Rewatch, the show where we like to watch movies that we loved in our youth and see if they're actually still any good. I'm Nick.
I'm Bret.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Ash.
And so this time around, we decided to put the choice of a movie out to a vote.
Yeah.
So this was a Twitter poll that we put out. The options being A Night. You're gonna have to help me out, Ash. A Knight's Tale, Mighty Ducks,
Napoleon Dynamite, and Slither.
I voted Slither.
Did you?
I had never even heard of Slither, and then I looked it up, and I thought, I really want to watch this.
Yeah, actually, I remember Slither because, side tangent, I remember Slither because Bret was like all over that movie whenever it came out. What was that, like high school?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you were so into it. I remember you guys were really into it, and I just didn't want to go because I thought it was like a serious horror film. And then I watched the trailer. Yeah, and I was like, what? This is a campy comedy? I had no idea. With Nathan Fillion.
Okay.
Wait, it's Nathan Fillion?
Nathan Fillion is
Holy
in the movie.
shit, I forgot.
Yeah.
Is the director James Gunn? And I was like, whoa, I got to check this out.
It's the perfect horror movie for me, which is that it's not trying to be too scary, but there's at least one very memorable, horrifying moment, and then a lot of comedy. Like, it's great. So we'll get there eventually.
Like Cabin in the Woods?
It's personal opinion, better than Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, fuck you.
By the way,
that is a high bar.
You were correct, Nick. It is James Gunn.
It is James Gunn.
Yeah.
Okay. Who, of course, we know from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I mean, I wasn't trying to say
really
that Cabin in the Woods was bad, by the way. Cabin in the Woods is great.
Yeah, he's just saying this is even better, which is a lofty claim.
Well, it does have Nathan, so.
So we don't get Nathan Fillion, but we do get Alan Tudyk.
Yes.
Because the movie that was voted to the top is A Knight's Tale.
I'm so excited.
You're excited. I thought
Oh my
Ash
God.
would be excited. This is something Ash has been wanting to do for a while.
I know. Me too. And I'm really excited. I'm so glad Ash put it out to Twitter and that Twitter won.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because I felt bad. I was like, this is 2 movies in a row that I've suggested. I feel kind of bad. But I was like, it's
But the
so
people
good.
spoke.
So I know I'm kind of jumping the gun, but this is like my favorite guilty pleasure movie. Like,
Really?
I love it so much.
Nice.
Now, guilty pleasure suggests that there's something wrong with the movie that you're tolerating because you love it. Do you think that's an accurate description?
Okay, that's not how I define guilty pleasure. I define guilty pleasure of something that artistically is not a good choice, but for some reason I love it.
I always feel like guilty pleasure is like, I'm embarrassed that I like this thing.
Right.
A little bit of
But
that.
I still watch it. Which is how I feel about Supernatural. I'm like, I'm embarrassed that this thing is actually kind of good. And I watch it.
That's funny. When you started saying that, it's like, all right, let's get some examples.
Yeah.
I think for me, and Supernatural reminded me that my guilty pleasure is probably The Flash.
Yeah.
Like, those DC TV shows right now are not good.
No.
But if you want to turn your brain off and just watch something with a format that you're used to,
Yeah.
those things work.
I mean, it's not just if you want to turn your brain off. It's like if you want your brain forcefully turned off.
I was extremely
There is no
depressed.
plot to process.
Those shows, those DC CW shows are like a televised lobotomy. Like,
Yeah.
I was very depressed after the election to the point where I just didn't see anybody in the world for a week and just watched The Flash. Because it could just it could keep my attention, but barely.
Was he the superhero you needed?
Yeah, I guess he was. the milquetoast superhero that I needed.
See, I felt the same way about Big Bang Theory when I first started watching the show. Was when I was at home, and because my grandma wasn't doing well, so I was there to help, and it was just on TV.
Yeah.
And so I just started watching it, and I like fell in love with it because it cheered me up when I was not feeling good, and
there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for me, that's How I Met Your Mother. Was like the unemployed.
But that's actually good.
How I Met Your Mother is great.
Yeah,
yeah, true for the first few seasons.
But she like binge watched it like nonstop for weeks.
Yeah,
ended the series and started over immediately.
Not ended. There's a threshold for me, which is like season 4 or 5. And after that point, I'll just go back and start from the beginning. And I've done that like 4 or 5 times now.
I never finished that show, so I still don't know How He Met My Mother.
I had it spoiled, but I have never seen it. I don't want to. Like, I don't want to know.
I need to go back and finish it.
So, Nick, did you see that article last week? I don't want to talk about it too much, but this is for you and for our listeners. There was a great article about the DC superheroes. Yeah.
TV or movie?
The TV, and it was the top 25 DC superhero names that also sound like sex toys.
Oh my God.
Very inappropriately, I was talking about that article at work today.
It's a good article, and like they make some strong arguments.
Wow.
I'm having a hard time thinking of any.
Pun intended.
Wait, I don't remember what I said.
Memorably, what was it? One of them's name is like actually named Vibe, right?
I can't remember. They were all good.
Marvel called Quake.
Dr. Midnight was good.
Yeah, Dr.
Oh man.
Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
Anyway, check it out, guys.
Yeah. So let's talk about Knight's Tale. I actually would not even classify this as a guilty pleasure, but I do remember it being a movie that I liked and a lot of people hated.
Yes.
That's kind of the memory I have of it.
I don't know if I'm jumping ahead on you as well, but I was just pulling it up on iTunes, and it had a 53% rating on the critic rating, but the user rating is 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Is like critically reviled.
Is the Rotten Tomatoes critics hated it. And from what I remember is the reason why people hated this movie was because it was one of, if not the first time, that people did a period movie and didn't do period accurate music.
Well, I think that was the big selling point of this movie. Mm-hmm. And it was a weird gonzo thing that I could understand people hating.
Yeah.
But I thought it was kind of brilliant.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like one of the first times, and so that's why I think critics...
You say it's one of the first times. Is this something that other movies have done since?
Yes.
I can't really think of anything that's done that.
Marie Antoinette.
Yes, Marie Antoinette has done it.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
It's so commonplace now that you probably don't even like register it.
Didn't the Gatsby movie do it?
Oh, we talked about this a little bit with Westworld.
Yeah, I was going to say Westworld.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this movie is written and directed by Brian Helgeland, who is one of those writers that you probably love, but you don't know you love. I'm a huge fan of Payback, the Mel
I've never
Gibson
seen
movie.
that. I want to see it.
Yeah, I really recommend that. But he started with Tales from the Crypt, and then his first movie was Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which I think is one of the better of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Oh, yeah? Better than the first one?
No, the first one is always the best, but there were some bad Nightmare on Elm Street
So
movies.
you're telling me the first one's the best?
Yes, without question. It's okay if you don't like it. It's still the best.
It goes downhill quickly.
Yeah. Oh, it goes the worst. The second movie is just garbage.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But he also...
More garbage than a blow-up doll being sucked through a peephole in a door. That was garbage.
Well, it was low-budget effects. Got to cut him some slack. But yeah, Helgeland wrote some movies like L.A. Confidential,
that's a good one.
Ridley Scott version of Robin Hood, Mystic River. But he also wrote and directed Payback, Knight's Tale, The Order, which I'd never seen, but has a lot of actors from Knight's Tale. And he wrote and directed 42.
Wow, I have seen only this film of his.
Of all, you haven't seen L.A. Confidential?
No.
That's a good one.
Mystic River?
I have not seen Mystic River. I remember when it came out, though.
Movies on this list.
Is Sharon Mystic River, or am I thinking of Mystic Pizza?
Mystic Pizza.
Okay.
That's a pretty awesome mistake. But I think that our lineup of actors are really interesting. We've been talking a lot recently about Heath Ledger.
Yeah, another Heath. If you couldn't tell, I was a bit of a Heath fan back in the day.
I'm going to
Back in the day?
say something about Heath Ledger, but I want to watch the movie first. And I may or may not say something after the movie.
Don't you dare shatter our love for him.
But the other big actor in this, well, maybe he's not the biggest, but I'm a big fan, like under the radar fan of Mark Addy.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of these guys who's like a real fucking actor and you don't even recognize. He's Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
What?
The original king in Game of Thrones. He's Fred Flintstone in the Flintstones movies.
Oh,
What?
wow.
He's Friar Tuck in the Ridley Scott Robin Hood. This guy has got some fucking
What?
range. This guy is a really, really good actor.
What else has he been? I feel like I've seen him in something else, too.
Oh, he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Oh, Full Monty.
He was in the Full Monty.
Oh, he was
one of the guys
so
in Full
good
Monty.
in that. That's what I recognize him from.
Yeah, so this is like one of those guys who does very different stuff. Like Lev Schreiber. Like sometimes action star, sometimes nerdy guy. You know, it's amazing the range he has.
Must have good headshots. I've got one for every occasion.
Yeah. But we also have Rufus Sewell, who I remember from Dark City.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, I went back to that recently and tried to watch it and only got halfway through.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's more like dark shitty, man.
Oh, no.
I remember it well.
I'm
It
definitely
might be
not
interesting to
remembering
check it out for this podcast.
You know what it was? Is Dark City had like their ads on lock. Like it was, I remember the ads, and then like the movie just never stacked up.
I remember really liking it, but going back recently, I did not. But Rufus Sewell also did a couple of big presidential biopics. He was in the John Adams HBO series, and he was in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, the historically accurate presidential biopics.
That was great.
Did I see
I still
that?
haven't seen it.
I'm actually not sure if I have seen it now that I think about it, because nobody would watch it with me.
It was like the dumb escapist vampire nonsense I wanted. Like all vampire movies should be Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Like, I didn't finish it, but I watched half of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and I was like, okay, obviously the plot of this movie is just like fucking gonzo, but like if you can just sit back and enjoy it for like the nonsense it is, it's pretty great.
I read half of that book and I said, all right, I get it. And I moved on because I didn't see it getting any better or worse. Just it's the same joke over and over.
I would imagine the plot of that movie minus the zombies would be boring as fuck.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just described Jane
I
Austen.
could totally understand that because the zombies are the one exciting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jane Austen's pretty boring stuff.
I like
Pride and
it.
Prejudice. And what's the other one that you watch? Or is that the same one? The one with the troll?
Yeah.
There's the one with just a name.
So there's Pride and Prejudice, which they did a remake with the chick who was in Pirates of the Caribbean, and then there's Sense and Sensibility with
that one.
I love that one.
Is that the one I make fun of a lot?
No, you make fun of the remake.
Okay.
With what's her face? Whose name I can't remember.
Every time Sam sits down to watch it, I just
Keira Knightley,
like start talking, and she's like, "Shut up, shut up."
Oh yeah, he's referring to an event that was like 7 years ago. By the way, I have not pulled that movie out of the case since the first time I got it.
It was that memorably
He
awful.
Ruined it the first time I was watching it.
I think Jane Austen ruined it.
Oh my god!
Thank you, Nick.
No, Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thomas and Thompson, and I'll Never Let Go. What's her name?
Oh, Kate
Not Kate Hudson.
Hudson?
No,
Hackett?
that's the wrong one. That's the wrong Kate.
Not Kate.
Whatever.
I'll take Famous Kate's for 800.
Her. That is a great movie, and Severus Snape is in it.
Oh.
Dude.
Oh.
Okay.
Maybe we need to put it on the list.
Youch.
We need to riff. I'll do that if we
enjoy that.
riff tracks it, because I will murder that
Shut
movie.
the fuck up. You will not ruin that movie for me. You don't know what's good.
Do you see?
So this movie also has two other big actors for me, Paul Bettany and Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, they're both awesome.
I remember Alan Tudyk stealing the show.
Okay.
Stealing.
I think that's Alan Tudyk's job.
Yeah.
He did that in Firefly. He did that in Dollhouse. He did that in Rogue One.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
that dude just walks in and steals a movie. Like, he's the only likable thing about Rogue One, in my opinion.
I liked several things,
But he becomes the reason to watch Dollhouse.
I've never seen Dollhouse. People talk about it a lot.
You've got to watch Dollhouse.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, just give it a few episodes and yeah.
I never finished it, but I remember liking it.
And then, of course, Paul Bettany, we know as he's currently the Vision in all of the Marvel movies. But I'm a huge fan of the Master and Commander books and the movie. And he's Dr. Maturin in that movie. And freaking brilliant.
I think he also steals this movie as well.
Yeah.
I just remember him and Alan Tudyk just being fucking hilarious.
The interesting thing about Paul Bettany's character in this movie, like, I don't remember this movie well. And here's how I realized that I don't remember it well, is that I was getting kind of excited about talking about how much I like Pete Postlethwaite. And then I was thinking, well, wait a minute. Is that this movie or is that Dragonheart?
Oh.
And I think, and it's Dragonheart. So I think Paul Bettany is kind of the same role as what Pete Postlethwaite does in Dragonheart.
I don't know that I've ever seen Dragonheart, actually.
We've talked about it a little bit.
That-
it was made
that
right
one should
after
be on the
Jurassic
list.
Park using all the same tech.
Yeah.
And it's just a great story about a dragon and like this.
Wait,
he's
is
not
the dragon's name Yeller?
No.
I can like
Dragon's
see
name is Sean
No, I
Connery.
think that's Old Yeller.
No, I saw a dragon movie where I feel like, I don't know.
But
Now
yeah,
I
that
wanna
one
know.
I remember liking, and then also like all of my memories of it are, man, I shouldn't have liked that.
I don't agree. I think it's got some good stuff.
Well,
I don't,
we gotta
I
watch
don't
it.
think I've ever seen
I
it.
want it to be good, but I can't imagine that it is because I liked it as a kid and I had really shitty taste as a kid.
Is that going to be illustrated as we watch Knight's Tale?
This one I really enjoyed through college, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But it has been a long time.
Looking at the writer, director, looking at some of these actors, I can't imagine it not being great. But there is that weird alternate way of telling the story that they use in this movie that, I don't know, I remember really enjoying, but maybe it'll feel weird this time.
Yeah, I mean, even like I was pulling it up, like I said, on iTunes, and like the first from New York Magazine, like it gave a little blurb from their, critique back in the day. And they were harping so hard on the music and that the fact that the music wasn't period correct. And I think,
Seems like kind of the point.
yeah, at the time, I think it was just so forward thinking that people couldn't handle it. And a lot of people labeled this film, they just couldn't look past that. And so they didn't enjoy the film for what it was.
So
Seems
here's
so weird to me.
this is me looking back, and my memory could be inaccurate. But something that I think A Knight's Tale did that helped sell the music was that their costumes were also not 100% period accurate. They felt more modern. Like the main girl has like a bright green dress that feels very modern, and it has like feathers, and her hair's all like modern.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that is what helps sell it to me. But we'll see if that is still true.
I think I remember reading an article when the movie came out about how the filmmakers felt like these jousters were, in a sense, what?
I just I've never heard that word. Is that the word?
Jouster?
Yeah.
Well,
It is now. It makes sense
Maybe
to
it's
me,
not.
man.
Are they the court jouster?
No, that's a
different
jester,
word.
Nick. Get your shit together.
I don't know.
But is it
clearly
like
the word makes sense? I just never heard it said out loud.
Like
Anyway.
a joust man or
Joustman, joustist.
The joustmen?
Yeah.
They felt that these joustmen were like the rock stars of their time. And so
Is that not the case?
No, it was historically, but like basically that was the motivation for the rock music was they felt that they were the rock stars of their time, and thus they wanted to bring the modern rock star vibe, to the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah. My thought about it is like, and this kind of belies my prediction for the movie, is that a lot of critics and people in general can't enjoy something like based on what is taught to them. And it's like, this is one of those things where if you're going to do a period movie, use the period music and
go off of expectation.
Yeah. And it's like, but it's good. And you can see that it's good. And like, you're still going to shit on it because it's just not the thing that you were taught.
Well,
So I'm expecting it to be good. But like, this is one of those things where I remember that this opening scene was awesome because of the music.
That was one thing that they taught me in art school was like, we're teaching you these rules, not so you treat them like rules, but so you know when to break them. And I think a lot of people who study film don't get that caveat. And they're like, here's the rules. Don't ever fucking break them. So I'm curious.
I think most of the time professional film critiques aren't actually filmmakers. They don't really.
I thought you were going to say they aren't actually film critiques, because a lot of the ones that I read are just summaries of the film, and it's like, okay, cool, but
I could just watch the movie.
Yeah,
like that NPR movie review thing where they never actually talk about the movie and they just say like, here's the plot of the whole movie. Let's move on. It's like, I hate you. I hate you so much.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason why I really like Tarantino. Because he does in some movies, but in some movies he just says, fuck that whole 3-act structure thing that you see in every other movie. Yeah. Especially Death Proof.
Yeah, let's just have some chicks talking around a table.
But it's just like
30
the whole structure falls out the window, and sometimes that's great and that's refreshing, rather than just hitting the beats that you expect to hit.
Yeah,
in every movie. Yeah,
I don't like it because it's different.
So here's the question I want to ask. Is there a good movie about knights in shining armor?
This one.
I always talk about how bored I am with Westerns.
Are you bored with knights as well, Nick?
I'm kind of bored with knights.
Oh, no.
Like, are there any good movies about knights and medieval stuff?
Yeah, this one.
And I'm okay. but aside from, I don't count Lord of the Rings. I don't count fantasy.
Monty Python? No.
It's like,
well, do you count Robin Hood?
I think Robin Hood does count. And I think the one with Alan Rickman and I don't know, I'm forgetting his name. I think that one was pretty good, but I haven't seen it.
How about the one with Mel Brooks?
Wait, the Alan Rickman one.
Kevin Costner,
Ooh, maybe that one should be on the list because I think I hate that movie.
I couldn't watch it all the way through.
I've never seen it.
I mean, it's Kevin Costner, I believe, is terrible, and Alan Rickman is brilliant, and that makes for a weird movie.
Alan Rickman is pretty rapey, if I remember correctly, and it was like...
Yeah, but that's the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Well,
that's the point.
I mean...
But it was like... I think maybe at the time I watched it, I was like, he's Severus Snape. And I was like, oh, I don't like that.
Oh, that movie came out a long time before Harry Potter.
I know. But...
You can't call Hans Gruber Severus Snape.
Thank you.
Oh, my God.
Hans Gruber is doing magic.
So, yeah, is there anything like maybe Dragonheart?
But that would be fantasy.
It is, and it's not really knights. Yeah. I had such high hopes for Timeline, but the book was great and the movie was garbage.
I never saw that.
This makes me want like a Daniel Day-Lewis is a knight traveling across medieval Europe, like just fighting alone.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
He's getting a little old.
It's not. It never happened, but I bet that Don Quixote movie would have been amazing.
Yeah, the Terry Gilliam.
If you
the
can
man who
count
killed Don
that,
Quixote.
I really like the Count of Monte Cristo.
Ooh,
yeah, that's an
never
awesome
seen that
movie,
one.
but that's certainly not medieval times.
True.
It's approaching that period, but not quite.
Was there a movie where the guy has the Iron Mask? Man in the Iron Mask? Did that have knights?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's almost to Monte Cristo times. That's
Yeah.
like Three Musketeers times.
Yeah.
Or am I
In
thinking?
fact, does that story interact with Three Musketeers?
I believe it does. I think they show up.
Is that fucking Matt Damon in that movie?
I want to say it's Leo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
They're like the same person in my head for some reason.
So I don't know. Maybe this movie is how you make Knights in Shining Armor good.
Man, I just looked it up and Google gave me a list and
Movies about knights.
this really might be the best one.
It's this or it's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
But that would be fantasy. So there's Robin
sci-fi.
Hood, there's Excalibur, there's the 13th Warrior,
No.
Lady Hawk,
Pass.
that's fantasy. There's the really awful, and I forgot about it, King Arthur movie
Yeah.
with Keira Knightley.
Oh
I've never
gosh.
seen that. Was that Tony Scott? I feel like Tony Scott directed one of these
I don't know. I can find out.
knight-ish movies.
Night-ish movie. Director? No, not Tony Scott.
You're not going to get to tell us who?
I can't
Just fuck that
pronounce
guy.
his name. Antoni. I don't know. How do you say that?
Anton Fuqua. I love that dude. But Bret hates him. He directed Training Day.
Oh.
Don't you hate Training
No,
Day?
I hate
Sam
Training
hates Training
Day.
Day. I
Sam,
like Training
yeah.
Day.
They made
Yeah,
a
Antoine
fucking
Fuqua is
TV
great.
show out of Training Day. Why?
Man.
Yeah, I got to check that out.
Oh, I got one for you, which I bet no one else has seen. But The Court Jester is a very good movie.
No, it's pronounced Jouster.
Jouster. The Court Jouster, but it's an old Danny Kaye movie that is.
That makes sense. I think to get a good pirate or knight movie, you need to go back to the 50s or the 40s. That's probably the science.
Yeah, it's 1953, and or 1956. I'm sorry, but Danny Kaye is just brilliant. One of the masters of comedy, and he has a beautiful singing voice. So it is. I think it's a musical, but just hilarious. Like one of the masters.
Okay.
And I don't believe that there's any magic or any dragons or anything in it. It's a movie about knights, and I think they're competing, and I think they even joust. They might be joustermen in the movie as well.
What about First Night? Is that a movie? The one with
That's a movie.
Patrick Stewart?
Let's see.
Patrick Stewart's in that? I'm thinking that's I'm forgetting the guy's name. But yeah, I haven't seen it. So yeah, maybe this is the best of the Knights movies.
It is.
All right. So we might kind of have our expectations on the table. I feel like I enjoyed it, but don't really remember it.
I'm
Ash and
definitely going to
Sam?
think it's a 2 thumbs upper.
Yeah. Are we all saying we think it's a good movie?
Yes.
I think artistically it may not be the best movie, but it's one of those movies that is just fun and you have to enjoy it for what
How
it is.
long ago did you see it?
Probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, that's pretty recent.
And Ash?
Oh, much longer.
Okay.
When it came out, I saw it, and then I got the DVD, and I watched it several times because it was one of my favorites back then. But I don't think I've seen it, gosh, I don't know, maybe 10 years?
Okay.
Maybe more. I don't know.
So some time has passed.
It has been a long time.
All right, so we're going to rewatch Knight's Tale. Ash, you said it was on iTunes, so I'm guessing it's not on Netflix.
Yeah, it's not on Netflix. I think it's also on Amazon, though.
Okay, and I'm sure on Google Play as well. So you might want to watch A Knight's Tale and join us after the movie.
We will rock you.
I can't remember.
I don't know.
That's all you get.
Fun fact, I Googled the lyrics to that song,
Oh, God.
and Google seems to
Google
think
knows what's up.
that We Will Rock You was written by Nickelback.
Oh, God.
What?
And
Yeah.
it's the right
It's
lyrics.
not even April 1st yet. Come on.
All right, so we just watched A Knight's Tale, and we're going to do a little something here. Bret, I've emailed you a list. This is a list of actual knights of the British realm, and we're going to choose our champions, and we're going to set up a little tournament.
Oh.
Good, don't say it. So Ash, pick your champion.
I've already picked
You've already picked your champion. Brett, pick a champion, and we're going to set up a little joust between.
Oh, no, I didn't see him. Oh, man.
Okay.
You have one, Brett?
I'm going through the list.
I'm ready.
All right, who do we got? Brett, who's your champion in our joust tournament?
Michael Gambon.
I think that's Sir Michael Gambon is going up against who, Ash?
Sean Connery.
Sir Sean Connery. All right, so in a joust, who wins between Sir Michael Gambon and Sir Sean Connery?
Wait, who's Michael Gambon?
Dumbledore.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah.
Do they have powers?
Oh. I would say Dumbledore powers versus 007 powers.
Oh.
Dude.
That's a quick
So
draw.
like magic versus sexiness.
Dumbledore.
Well, sexiness. Clearly.
Which is going to knock you off the horse because that magic wand can blast 007 off the horse, I think. I don't know, who do you think takes that, Sam?
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore? All right, Sam, pick your champion.
I pick Sir Patrick Stewart.
Ooh.
I pick Sir Elton John.
Oh, no. So flamboyance versus just raw man. Man power.
Raw man even into his 90s.
Did I pick your knight?
What'd you say, Sam?
I said, did I pick your knight?
No.
Okay.
I like Elton John. I'd put Elton John. Or I could go George H.W. Bush up
Why?
against Patrick Stewart.
Why him?
Well, you know he would lose. Definitely.
He'd probably just like dive into the joust way prematurely, without having any plan to win the joust.
I like how this article posted a picture of him with the queen, just so you know that they're like serious. They're like, no, really, she knighted him.
I didn't think Americans could be knights. That's weird, right? Like Robert De Niro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
well, like I said, Charlie Chaplin.
All right, so Brett, you got to call it. Who wins between Sir Patrick Stewart and
I
Sir
would like
Elton
to make an argument for Sir Patrick Stewart.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sir Patrick Stewart is not a violent person, so Sir Patrick Stewart would win with some awesome mind game.
See, I think he would win by just slowly removing one article of clothing. Until he seduces Elton John.
Yeah, Elton John would just enjoy the hell out of it. Yeah. I mean, you say Patrick Stewart's not a violent person, but Elton John is not a violent person.
Fair.
But
he is
Elton
definitely
John's
a lover, not a fighter.
Elton John has the dexterousness of a musician. Patrick Stewart is just like a thinker. So I think Elton John wins this joust.
Again, Brett.
He's not going to miss that target.
Stewart has the dexterousness to take off his clothes.
I think Elton John would get up on the horse and he would say, "You can tell everybody that this is your defeat," and then just plow him down.
He just starts singing "Candle in the Wind" and makes him cry.
I kind of like Salman Rushdie.
I almost picked him.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's survived a lot. That dude is a survivor. All right, I would get Ben Kingsley up there.
Ben Kingsley.
Oh, yeah.
Did you
That
see?
guy could crush it.
Keep going, Brett.
We just found
Richard
Ash's
yeah,
champion.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Aww, but he's dead.
He would win because his attack spares no expense.
And David Attenborough?
Richard Attenborough versus David Attenborough. Who will win?
Well, can they bring
Nature versus science nature.
Can they bring their creatures? Can Richard Attenborough bring dinosaurs and
course.
David Attenborough brings like penguins?
Yeah. No, David Attenborough would bring like fucking lions,
Like
or something.
cheetahs and whatnot. All right.
He'd still lose though.
Yeah. So what did we think of A Knight's Tale? Okay.
It totes holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to say something that
Oh no. Just don't.
Don't break my heart, Nick. Don't break it.
I think the biggest problem with this movie is the modern music.
No.
Meaning, no, I don't think they leaned into it hard enough.
Yes.
I think they had a few and then they reeled back.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It should have been some kick-ass song during the final battle.
Yes.
They just kind of, it seemed like they chickened out and used traditional music.
Totally.
You know, there was the scene where he first sees Jocelyn was the worst song in the whole movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was so bad. And I was like, oh no. Maybe we're going to have a Labyrinth moment where you guys said that all the music not done by David Bowie was horrible. I was like, maybe we're going to have a moment where all the music that's not a real rock song is horrible in this movie.
Oh, you mean just the score? Yeah, that was some lame score.
Yeah, that was bad.
It was like the worst of like just 90s phone it in like wank guitar.
Yeah.
And insult to injury, he referred to her as Foxy Lady.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, buckle up for another song.
Yeah.
And no thanks.
Oh,
like they just didn't even bother.
I bet they had that song there.
Up in there. Oh, you think they planned it, but they couldn't get it?
Yeah, or like they had it in there, and then just like some D-bag in post was just like, that's too on the nose, guys.
Never blame post. But
Well,
how dare
not
you?
the post.
I
Like
would
the
say
director in
producer.
post was just like, I don't like that after all. Like we did that whole
Or
scene.
maybe the studio was like, guys, we need to pull back a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, they got nervous.
maybe. Yeah.
That's my theory.
Because it's, it's so clear that the rock music is intentional and planned from the beginning.
And here's the proof of that. And I was wondering, like, did they shoot this movie one way and add the music later?
Right.
But no, the proof is that first scene.
Absolutely.
All of the people in that audience are doing the...
And the Golden Years scene when
Yeah,
they're dancing
yeah.
because they go from the traditional dance to dancing like they're
That's
at a
the
rock
one
concert.
that kind of bums me out.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Not the song, but the fact that they set up the character in the story that he can't dance, and suddenly he can.
Well, he's been practicing all day.
Maybe it was like he
Maybe.
can't formal dance.
Nick's like, it doesn't work for me that way.
He's like
No,
he's like
I
a club
kinda-
kid.
I could take that as an explanation.
The way I took it was he didn't know how to do the proper like traditional dances, and so they taught him, and so he could kind of do that. But then it morphed. They're like, show us a dance of your people, and so it morphs into him just dancing free spirited.
Yeah, I mean, that's decent headcanon, but put it in the movie.
Why? You really want a scene fucking explaining the dancing?
Yeah, I mean, I got it because they said show us a dance of your people, and he starts off very like
does the chicken dance.
awkwardly. I don't know. It worked for me.
Okay,
That's my
fair
favorite scene.
enough. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Brett and I were talking about the music in this, and we think, I don't know if Brett agrees, but I think it adds
He has
a
to,
level.
you're married.
You're married, so
It adds a level of energy and like excitement to scenes that would otherwise be really boring with like a traditional
Yeah,
score.
like the boys are back in town
Yeah.
thing. Like
oh yeah,
I can think of no traditional score that would have felt that way.
yeah, totally.
And I don't even know if I can explain this properly, but I think it's the best way to go in the sense that the modern Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch is literally the best way to tell that story. Because in that time, in that place of medieval jousts or whatever, they would be stomping and clapping and singing something.
Yeah,
Something that to them had the energy that to us a Queen song has.
yeah.
So in that context, it's the most logical.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like
Tell that story.
brilliantly chosen because it's just like, oh yeah, like that they could be singing that. Like I get
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
And if they had the actual song that they actually sang in 1480, I wouldn't feel the energy of it.
Yeah.
And you've got to communicate that energy to the audience.
And I know that most of us on this podcast are not sports fans, but I think they were really trying to draw the parallels also to football.
Yeah.
And I've seen football stadiums do everyone in the crowd start doing "We Will Rock You."
Yeah.
So it's
And
I
then-
definitely think.
And then they show the shot of the bare-chested guys like bumping into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like people like drinking and eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the most unrealistic scene of the movie is when villain McVillain face was like out at war, and then he has this guy bringing him like the sports page.
Yeah, like the sports page.
That's something I always think about when I watch Game of Thrones, where something happens and then the next scene they receive a raven.
Yeah,
and we're supposed to understand, oh, that happened a few hours ago and now we know about it. But if you think about it, 4 weeks have passed since that competition and him getting the news of the competition.
Also, you don't just send like one raven. Like the logistics of like there's like hunter birds out there. They've probably released like hundreds of ravens with the same message, and like everyone in the kingdom gets a copy.
Yeah.
Or like hopefully hundreds, just hoping that one of them makes it.
Yeah.
One of them survives.
I just saw, to go back to our greatest hits, I just saw a Futurama episode where a raven arrives and Scruffy like catches the raven and he gets the message and he's like, "Raven for you, sir." And this would have been like
just randomly in the episode.
Yeah,
That's
this is
amazing.
like 5 to 10 years before Game of Thrones.
Before the TV show or before the book? Because the book,
I guess the book might have been out. Maybe they were playing off of the book.
They called it.
It was a perfect Game of Thrones gag before the Game of Thrones TV show existed.
That is amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you guys catch the Benedict Cumberbatch lookalike?
Yes, I totally said that.
I definitely looked it up just to check, but no.
Yep. I definitely saw that.
Sharp-faced boy.
That was amazing.
So there was a thing I was going to say, and I'm going to reel back a little bit on it because I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I don't think Heath Ledger across the board is a great actor.
Oh, totally disagree.
And I was very pleasantly surprised by what he did in this movie. But having recently...
Oh, you're not referring to this movie.
Well, I'm saying a lot of his stuff.
Gotcha.
10 Things I Hate About You, he didn't do anything except look good.
Oh.
I recently saw Casanova, and he was terrible. It was just mumbly the whole time. And a character that should be, flamboyant and larger than life was just mumbly. And then I start thinking about, well, what's his best performance? Dark Knight, but then second best would be Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
But he's mumbly in that. And maybe that's just the note he plays that just happened to be perfect for Brokeback Mountain. So is Dark Knight the only good performance? But this was pretty good. He felt like he had some life to him.
No, yeah. I mean, I love that moment when they've just taken him out of the gallows thing and the King Edwards is like, take a knee, and the look of sheer surprise and joy that comes over Heath Ledger's face is like, it's so genuine that I absolutely believe him. And I think what he does in this film, it's like you can tell that he's emaciated and tired and that he hasn't eaten in days and he's exhausted. But this moment of him finally obtaining his wish and like that look that it's just for a second that like goes across his face, but it's just wonderful. And I just think he does, I just think he's amazing.
Yeah,
he
does a good
way
job.
more
in this
life
film.
to him in this movie than I've ever seen him had.
I mean, I haven't
outside of Dark
seen
Knight.
those other films, so I can't really speak to those. But in all the films I've seen him, I've always really liked him.
Another really cool thing about that scene that I mentioned to Sam while we were watching is there's a lot of night movies that end with like, oh, you've done the awesome thing. Now you will be knighted. And this movie, like, I don't know, it felt so much more earned because it wasn't like just like a reward given for doing the like he was it was something like he needed to progress, and it was something he actually did earlier in the film that came back to help him out here, but it still wasn't like the end of his journey.
It was a plant and a payoff, which made it feel more earned, like you're saying.
Well, counterpoint to that, that I couldn't help thinking in as I'm watching the movie is that was a classic example of Deus Ex Machina that they fixed by going back and adding one little scene where he met the Prince of Wales earlier in the movie. It's like they intentionally stuck that scene in just to make this make sense in the end. It didn't feel like a proper setup and payoff. It felt like they just shoehorned that in to make it make sense later.
Think about the story in this way. It's a boy who's not noble, whose only dream and desire is to be a knight.
It definitely works on that
That is the inevitable end. There could be no other end than him being knighted by the king.
And also,
it does work on that level.
I will add the whole scene of him like fighting the prince also ties into the other storyline of his arch nemesis dude, whose name I can't remember.
Villain McVillainface.
Villain, yeah, because he didn't get to fight the villain guy because he withdrew. Okay. So it's more intertwined than just a stuck-in scene.
And they did the wonderful parallels of, hey, we're both trying to hide who we are to do what we love.
Yeah,
you know, I don't know. I don't think it was just shoehorned in there.
You guys are right.
All right,
but let's go back to
you want to joust on it.
Heath Ledger's performance. And I will put this out there. I believe that Alan Tudyk, no question, is a way better actor. And here's my proof. I believe that Alan Tudyk could have played Heath Ledger's role in this movie.
I agree. Yeah,
Heath Ledger could not have played Alan Tudyk's role.
That's true.
You know, I think he's just a much better actor with much greater range. And to see them side by side and see Heath Ledger as the star...
Well, it's a
little bit of a bummer.
It's a thing that I know it's everywhere, but I learned it first in animation. Is the main character is always kind of milquetoast because they have to be, and it's the supporting cast that has the freedom to do to just stand there and make a crazy face at every moment like Alan Tudyk does.
Yeah.
I also don't think it's a fair comparison because, I think it's easy to stand back and say like, well, this actor can do comedy and drama, so therefore they're a better actor. But I think, those are different skill sets.
Sure. Okay.
So I don't think it's necessarily fair to compare because I don't think, every actor, like if you took a serious good actor, and tried to make them do comedy, of course they wouldn't be good at comedy. That's a completely different skill set that takes a lot of honing.
Fair enough.
I think he has. I think if the thing that kills me about Heath Ledger is I think if he was still here today, what he would have developed into would be incredible. I think what we're seeing here is him still developing.
Yes.
And I think he was
Dark Knight was a turning point.
Yes, he was
Brokeback was kind of a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think he has it in him to do comedy because 10 Things I Hate About You, he's a little comedic as well. He's got that wacky side. Like, I think he could be the lead character in Guardians of the Galaxy easy.
I'm going to give you a better one. I kept thinking of this throughout the movie, and it's not a comedy thing. Mm-hmm. If Heath Ledger were alive today, there's a lot of conversation about a remake of Highlander.
Oh, that would be good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He would crush that role.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the help of Queen.
It's just it's a different skill set. Like, and I'm not arguing against Alan Tudyk being an amazing actor. I think he's awesome. But I just think,
that's all a really good point.
Yeah.
Yep. So, go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
No.
Earlier, you mentioned the supporting cast being able to do whatever they want, and I want to point out that I think the supporting cast made this movie.
Oh, totally! Like they're so lovable.
Each background character had like a distinct personality that was so incredibly fun to watch, and it made the movie for me. And it also, I think, how not serious they were, or how tongue-in-cheek they were acted, really helped sell the music too for some reason.
Yeah.
Because
you can't play this movie too serious.
Exactly. Yeah. So I enjoyed that a lot.
Even the guy who was the call guy for villain McVillainface, even that guy, his personality slowly starts to seep through. So by the end, he's like trying to be a better caller like the other guy is, you know, and he's like
the herald. Yeah,
trying to be a better herald. And, you know, you can see he's like, he can't help but love the other team too, you know.
By the way, fuck, what's his name? Their scribe guy is the fucking best.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like favorite character in the movie by far.
I want to just spend time with Paul Bettany and Mark Addy. Like those guys have so much personality in this movie.
I said that Alan Tudyk stole the show, but I really meant Paul Bettany. Bettany.
Yeah.
I really meant him because he was always my favorite character when I watched this film when it first came out, because he just completely amazing.
He
was like completely nude.
Yeah, completely.
Dude, I love
twice.
I love that scene where Tudyk is beating him up, and you just frame the shot around his bare butt as he's like getting punched. It was amazing.
There's a lot of like flowery dialogue in this movie, but it like
he's Chaucer.
No, but not him. Like everyone has some lines that are just like, that was pretty like poetic for such a weird tongue-in-cheek kind of movie. And also that like that just doesn't happen a lot in movies in general. Like people don't go out of their way to write things that sound deep, even if they're even the jokes they make have like some witty dialogue. And I don't know, I really liked it.
They were trying to go with the period dialogue as comedy and as personality to the characters, and I think that kind of worked.
Fed him well.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my favorite line.
My favorite line is, "I'm a writer. I give the truth scope," as a way of saying he lies.
Yeah.
It's my new. That's what I'm going to tell people. I'm a writer. I give the truth scope. Oh, other favorite moment, which Nick also called out, was the Leroy Jenkins moment.
Like, who in the middle of the battle screams their own name?
William!
That is such a Leroy Jenkins maneuver.
Leroy!
What was that supposed to be? And it wasn't even like, say your name or who are you? It was just the thing to yell was your own damn name.
It's pointing out that he is besting this nobleman, and he himself is actually a peasant. Like
that's what the filmmakers are trying to say anyway.
It's just weird.
It was weird. It came off a little weird, but I love the scene though where it cuts to him on the ground, and then his point of view of all of them popping their head in.
You know what's weird about that shot, that specific shot? I've seen that shot in Gladiator, and it was brilliant, where he's laying flat on his back, but he's floating over the earth.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's a good, foot between him and the ground. In Gladiator, it was awesome because he was moving, and the earth below him was moving in perspective. And when I saw that shot, I'm like, oh, that's going to be cool. They're just going to, like, slide him. But he didn't move. There was no reason for him to be so separated from the ground.
No, because it was the Assassin's Creed moment where you get to talk to someone right after killing them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird.
You should mention the women writing.
Oh, yeah. I thought the way they wrote the main chick was really interesting because she's like totally aware of how she is supposed to act and how it's unfair towards women, and is totally tongue-in-cheek about it.
It was reminding me a lot when I was watching this. I was like, I see a theme in the films I liked when I was a youngling. I liked the movies with the rebellious women that were like, don't you talk to me that way.
Yeah. She yells at a clergyman.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I super liked was, and I find myself thinking this, and I don't know if I was just remembering it deep in the back of my head, but earlier in the movie, there's all these knights saying that they'll win the tournament for her. Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking, it's like, well, if you really cared about me, then lose the tournament for me.
Oh, God. And then she did it.
And maybe I was just remembering it from this movie. But I thought that would be a brilliant turn. And when it did happen in the movie, I'm like, yes, I'm invested in this concept.
Yeah.
Like, if you really care, lose the tournament because you clearly care about this tournament more than you do about me.
And she even says that. She's like, if you win, it doesn't prove anything about how you feel about me. Like, it boosts your pride and like your self-worth. It shows nothing of me. If you lose for me, it's putting your pride below me, which means you value me more, which is totally interesting.
There was this whole idea that she was annoyed that every knight said that to her, except for William. And then when he did say that to her, it was kind of a gut punch.
That whole scene, the filming was pretty interesting.
That was a long shot.
It was a long shot and it was far away, which like you read
their flawless dolly.
Yeah.
Flawless.
And you like read their body language. And then when they cut in really close at the end, like you're like, oh, like you really feel their emotions. I was shocked to like appreciate that.
And I loved how everyone is like, they're not even pretending to ignore them. They're like staring at them like they're having an argument.
In church.
And like Heath Ledger throughout this film sometimes just feels like a caged animal. Like at the end of the argument, the only thing he can say to her is he just glares at her and he's like, ah! And he turns around and walks away. Like he just has this pent up like rage sometimes.
Heath Ledger's really good at being a dumb blonde.
Yeah. That's true.
Well, I mean, it's kind of that athlete thing who's so like focused in on the physical competition.
His pride.
Yeah.
He was focused on the pride. But at the same time, you know, I think all the characters love him for it. So it's like it's both his character flaw, but it also makes him lovable because he's so like determined.
Yeah.
Question.
There's another moment.
Oh, go for it. No. Mine is derailing the topic, so go for it.
Well, mine is too.
Okay.
I have a connected one.
Okay, you can do a connected one.
Speaking of the really cool shots, like the flawless dolly, man, there were a lot of really neat ways of telling the story of a joust over and over without repeating it.
And really, like, making you feel the impact with those shots.
I am blown away by the stunts in this movie.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how they got hit by those lances. They must have had a lightweight thing
or
that
how
shatters
that guy
on impact.
had a horse roll over him.
That's the one that blows me away.
Jesus.
The horse stunts in this movie are ridiculous.
Yeah. You got to wonder
There's a guy
if the
who was
horse got
dragged
hurt,
by
though.
a horse.
Did you guys notice in the final credits, the stunt coordinator got the first credit?
Really?
Before the cast. Like, deservedly
That is
so.
earned.
Yeah.
Black screen, stunt coordinator.
Yeah. It
Is
was
there an
amazing.
Oscar for stunt coordinator?
He should
And
get
not
it.
once do you go, oh, that's a fake body on a horse.
Oh,
or something.
never.
Yeah. Oh, it all felt completely
Yeah.
real.
And there was one moment where, and I know this film was filmed before they had GoPros, but there's one moment where if it was
GoPros.
filmed today, I'd be like, they stuck a GoPro on that lance. So I don't know how the fuck they got that shot. Cause like I know they didn't have GoPros.
They just
guess they
ran a
could put
camera
the
into
lance-
someone.
I guess.
They could put the lance on a crane.
I guess so.
Put
Yeah.
the camera mounted on it. But yeah. There's also like a ultra super extreme close up of a horse's eyeball that pulled out into the joust arena.
Oh, yeah.
That
I
I
missed
can't
that one.
comprehend how they would have gotten that shot. So another thing that I kind of predicted, that scene with his father when they're in the house and there's the rain. I went through this whole thing in my head. I'm like, his roof's leaking and his name's Thatcher. But he is blind, so I guess that makes sense. And then that whole thing played out in the dialogue immediately following that. It's like, okay, I guess that is kind of a nice thing that they wrote around there.
I think what we're learning is that you're observant.
Maybe.
That was like during the Star Trek movie when we kept asking questions and then they were immediately answered right after.
yeah.
Oh, so Nick, I had a question for you. You always point out the woman is a prize thing.
Yeah.
And I want to know how you feel about the scene in the tent where she says to William, like, here's your prize. And he's like, I'm not deserving of the prize. I'm on the fence. Like, it wasn't perfectly the woman is a prize, but it didn't sit well as like self-aware that is a problem. And how do you feel?
The very first moment we saw her on the screen, it triggered that reaction that I always have of he sees her and immediately he's in love with her.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like the movie redeemed itself from there.
Yeah.
And I kept finding myself thinking as I'm watching this movie, like, you know what? That happens. You know, one person will see somebody else and be immediately infatuated. In the real world, that shit doesn't work out 90% of the time, you know, but to like immediately want to follow that girl down the street, I could see that.
I kind of had this thought about it too, which was like, even though you know they broke her strong woman rule by having her go like, here's your prize. They didn't really, because it was kind of implicit in the whole like losing the tournament thing. Like she's like, hey, like do this and prove you love me, and then it's on, you know, like, well, that was kind of the
like he proved that she wasn't the prize because he was willing to lose for her.
No, I mean, here it is. I feel like she, and it was specifically her intent was to subvert that.
Yeah.
That she's acknowledging this thing was set up that I would be your prize. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
We fucked around with that. And as a wink wink joke, here I am as your prize.
Yeah.
Now,
okay.
This movie still doesn't quite pass the Bechdel test, but it didn't hurt me as bad as, I hate to say, the Lego movie hurt me.
I did find it interesting with the blacksmith, that whole scene where she's like, did they say that I couldn't do it because I'm a woman? And then he's like, and Will is like, no, that wasn't even brought up. Like, that was kind of funny.
Yeah, they just said you were a shitty blacksmith.
But that was also another one of those classic examples of like flimsy psychology, that it's like, we as the audience see how flimsy that is. Why don't the characters in the movie see how flimsy that is?
Yeah. Well, again, it wasn't taking itself seriously.
Yeah.
And they kind of set her character up a little bit hot-headed. You know, like when he turns her down to like join them, she like breaks the thing and storms off. Like she's a little hot-tempered.
But once again, as always happens in movies like this, she's more attractive than the main prize character woman.
Oh, really? I think the main woman is gorgeous. I think she's so beautiful.
What is there anything there, personality-wise, that's interesting about her?
Oh,
yeah. The blacksmith chick was way cooler. The other chick just had cool clothes.
Well, she also was a little sassy and like told people what to do and stood up for herself. Like,
she was better than a lot of similar characters in that position.
But you're right. Like, her character didn't measure up to the blacksmith at all in comparison.
And it's interesting. I never really thought about it until you pointed it out, and I really noticed it this time, Sam. But you are totally right about how the costumes feel a bit like they have a modern twist.
Yeah.
And even the blacksmith, like, I love how her hair is like subtly dyed green.
Yeah.
You know, and like I like that they made them a little punk
hair
rock.
Dye and the makeup was way modern.
Yeah. Well, there was one particular costume of Jocelyn where she literally looks like Audrey Hepburn.
Is that the one? It's like the first
with the hat?
or the second costume.
Yeah.
With the hat with the white stripe on it. And
it's so cool. Like, and it fits in the scene, but if you're looking for it, you totally notice how like modern it feels.
Not just her, but like all the characters too.
Yeah.
Like, the Herald guy has this like cool leather jacket with like a fur trim, and Alan Tudyk.
Because just making it look cool was more important than being like period accurate, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mentioned before that I recently watched the Casanova movie with Heath Ledger, but I also watched the I watched the Casanova with David Tennant. I saw both of those recently. And they did a really interesting thing in the David Tennant version where there was a point where, the sexual freedom got way the fuck off the chain and people were wearing very modern costumes for that scene. And it's like what we saw here in this movie. It's like it definitely communicated a different tone because the costumes took a huge shift into a modern design. It's kind of neat.
Totally.
Kind of a neat way to use that. So what are our final thoughts on
Ash? Oh, sorry. I was just leaving.
That's your final thought.
Yeah.
What celebrity night were you jousting there? Tell us who you were taking down.
George W. Bush for sure. Easy target, but I guess I was wrong.
You must have clicked on a
sorry.
weird link.
I don't know. There's Sandra Bullock
Yeah.
now. Sorry.
Sandra Bullock is not a knight.
No. I still loved it. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it really held up. There were a few little things here and there, but I still really enjoy this movie. Is Alan Tudyk always in Firefly? Is he sassy like that, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta watch Firefly.
He's super fun in Firefly.
Oh man, I just love his he gets so mad he can't even say words.
Yeah. I feel like the sassy drew the short straw kind of character is Alan Tudyk's strong point. That's what he
that
does.
is him in Rogue One.
Sure.
Sassy robot.
But watch Dollhouse, and he's badass.
Isn't he the was? I don't want to spoil.
She's trying not to throw out a spoiler, so she whispers.
I haven't.
You might want to edit around
Never
that.
mind. I can't remember.
You can't whisper spoilers and think they're not spoilers.
So, was it Alan Tudyk or the announcer dude who was in Death at a Funeral?
Oh,
The British
no, Death at a
version, not the
Funeral.
American
Oh
version.
yeah, one of them is.
I can't remember
Oh.
which one because they look so similar, but he was also hilarious in that movie.
I love that movie. Yeah, I'm looking it up. Somebody else say their reactions. I'll look it up.
So, in the end, I felt like this was pretty good. I definitely enjoyed it. Like I said, I wish they'd leaned more into the modern music. I hate when people pull their punches. If you have a crazy idea, stand behind it and do it its due justice. And I feel like I kind of want to go back to the cash register and hand them another 30 to 45 minutes back.
Really?
It was
a long movie.
It was really kind of unnecessarily long. But in the end, those are pretty minor complaints. I think it definitely worked. I think it was a way more fun movie than I've ever seen Knights be in a movie.
and probably ever will.
Well, maybe.
Sam, the answer was Alan Tudyk.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, he was hilarious in that movie.
Also, did you know that movie is directed by Frank Oz?
Death at a Funeral?
Yes.
Huh.
Crazy.
Did not
Anyway,
know that.
The more
He's
you
done a lot of good
know.
movies.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nick. Totally. I'm shocked at how well this movie held up, and I think I take back my guilty pleasure assessment.
Yeah.
I am proud
There's no
to
guilt to be
enjoy
had
this
there.
movie, and it's really fun and just really clever, and I like it a lot. And I do wish there were more rock and roll songs. I totally agree.
Yeah, they're new theorem for you guys. I don't think there's a movie that can't be improved with Queen.
As we have discovered time and time again.
So it's
Time.
Highlander.
Boobs, Christopher Walken,
Oh.
or Queen.
Right, yes. Boobs, Christopher Walken, Queen. Perfect.
It makes me really want to see Flash Gordon. I've never seen it.
I feel like if you were to cross Christopher Walken with boobs, you would get Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Huh.
Sam is not on board.
I'm thinking that one through.
It was a joke. I'm not serious.
I'm just thinking,
You're
of
not
Christopher
serious about
Walken.
conducting this highly contriversial scientific
Quick,
experiment?
let's get some scientists. Let's get some swabs, some boob swabs. Christopher, can you
I'm
come
not
here?
sure you understand how science works.
We'll just get some DNA swabs. No. Okay.
No.
Maybe I don't understand science.
Yeah. All right, so that's our show.
Wait, did Bret say?
Sorry.
I guessed it was good. It was good, man. This is a good movie.
It was good.
In many ways. Not the best movie, but a great movie.
All right. So that is our show for this.
Yeah. If you like the show.
Oh, you're just going to go with that? I completely dumped
Brett,
on a conclusion
let
and you're
him
going to run with
redo
it?
his outro, man.
I did run with it. That's a show.
Keep all of this in.
If you like the show, this is part of Laugh Stash TV. We got a YouTube channel with a drinking show and a cooking show and video game parodies. And this podcast.
Jello pudding pops.
Well, can't promise that.
Yeah, I said the thing.
Yeah. You can follow us on Twitter. We're at LaughStashTV. And for this podcast, we're at Let's Rewatch. Please tweet at us your movie suggestions. Like Bret said, we do video game parodies and our Fallout 4 parody that we've been working on for a year, because I know I've been telling you guys about it for
Working on for a year and announcing on this podcast for like 6 months.
Yeah, for a really long time. It's finally coming out, guys. Like, for real. Like, in the next week or two. For real. Don't laugh at me.
We won't believe you till we hear a date. And if you liked our show, please give us a review on iTunes or Google Play. We appreciate your feedback, and we hope that you'll share us with your friends.
And we'll keep doing this show every 2 weeks. So make sure your podcast subscriptions are up to date. And join us in another 2 weeks for another episode of Let's Rewatch.
Yeah, next week we're going to be watching a movie I kind of want to watch, man. Billy the Kid versus Dracula.
Oh, who would win in that joust?
Billy the Kid.
You don't think Dracula would like fly through the air with his Oh, he does have a gun. That's true.
He's got a gun.
Well, wait, no, you can't just shoot Dracula.
Well, maybe
That's not how Dracula. No, that's werewolves. No.
Oh.
You can't just shoot Dracula to death, but you can shoot Dracula.
Yeah, you don't have to kill a person to win a joust. You just have to knock them off.
One does not simply shoot Dracula.